On September 15th, 2004, Debbie Knight, the neighbor of Michelle Lynn Jones, stopped by her house to check on her after not hearing from her for 2 weeks. Upon entering the house through the garage, she found Michelle's uncle, Charles Brandt, hanging from the rafters with a bedsheet around his neck. When the police arrived, they discovered the bodies of Michelle and Charles' wife, Teresa Helfrich. She had been stabbed in the chest 7 times. Michelle had been decapitated and disemboweled, with her heart nowhere to be found. Her severed head was placed next to her body. Yet, with all this bloodshed, there was no signs of a struggle or forced entry, and the house was locked from the inside. Thus, with 2 people killed and one having killed himself, authorities quickly determined that Charlie Brandt had killed his wife and niece before committing suicide. Upon further police investigation, Charles Brandt's past was uncovered. It would reveal a maniacal obsession and a string of murders that started as a teenager. Welcome to History's Biggest Villains. Charlie Brandt was born February 23, 1957, and was the second child of Herbert and Ilse Brandt, 2 German immigrants who settled in Texas before moving to Connecticut. Brandt's father worked as a laborer for the division of International Harvester, eventually working his way up to draftsman and project engineer. The family moved frequently, and as a result, Brandt and his older sister Angela attended several different schools. Brandt was regarded as a good student, but was shy and had difficulty adjusting to new surroundings. In September 1968, Herbert was transferred to International Harvester's plant in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The family frequently vacationed in Florida, where Brandt hunted small game with his dad. On the evening of January 3, 1971, after their children went to bed in their Fort Wayne home, Herbert Brandt was shaving in the bathroom while Ilse, 8 months pregnant, was taking a bath. Charlie Brandt, then aged 13, had taken his father's handgun from a dresser. He abruptly walked into the bathroom and shot both parents at point-blank range. His father survived, but the mother and her unborn baby were killed instantly. Brandt then entered his sister Angela's room and attempted to shoot her, but the gun jammed. After a physical struggle, Angela managed to calm her brother down by promising him that she would help him figure out what to do. Angela eventually convinced him to go upstairs to retrieve blankets for their infant sisters who were unharmed, before fleeing the house and seeking help from neighbors. After pursuing his terrified sister outside, Brandt knocked on the neighbor's door, telling her, "I just shot my mom and dad." Herbert later identified his son as his attacker. After the shooting, Brandt had told Angela that he couldn't remember what he had done. Angela described her brother as being in a trance-like state, which had broken during their struggle. Upon being interviewed by police, Brandt attributed the shooting to a combination of things related to school, saying that everything sort of just snapped in my mind. "I felt like I never felt before." Brandt also alluded to an incident that took place a few days before the shooting near the end of his family's annual Christmas vacation in Florida, in which Herbert shot and killed their dog while the 2 were hunting. At the time he shot his parents, Charlie Brandt seemed like a normal kid. He did well in school and showed no signs of underlying psychological illness. The courts, who couldn't charge him with any criminal offense because of his age, ordered that he undergo psychiatric evaluations and spend more than a year in a psychiatric hospital before his father campaigned for his release. But none of the psychiatrists ever found any mental illness or any explanation as to why he'd shot his parents. Shortly after Brandt's release, his family relocated to Ormond Beach, Florida. A year later, Brandt's father and 2 younger sisters moved back to Indiana, while Brandt and Angela stayed behind in care of their grandparents. In 1984, Brandt received a degree in electronics and became a radar specialist for Ford Aerospace in Astor. In 1986, Brandt married his girlfriend Teresa Terry Helfrich. No relatives were invited to their wedding. His sister Angela and her husband Jim had advised Charles to tell Terry about the murder of their mother, but it's unclear whether he did or not. The couple settled in a beach house on Big Pine Key in 1989. On September 2, 2004, Brandt and Terry evacuated from their home ahead of Hurricane Ivan. Their niece, Michelle Lynn Jones, invited them to stay with her near Orlando. Throughout the visit, Jones kept in regular contact with her mother, Mary Lou, as well as several friends. On the evening of September 13th, one of Jones's friends, Lisa Emmons, was scheduled to visit their house. However, Jones discouraged her from coming, saying that the Brandts had an argument before drinking the other night. After that night, Jones stopped answering telephone calls, which alarmed her friends and family. On September 15th, another one of Jones's friends, Debbie Knight, went by her house to check on her while on the phone with Jones's mother. After finding the front door locked, Knight tried to enter the house through the garage, where she found Brandt's decomposing body hanging from the rafters. He had hanged himself using bed sheets. Knight contacted the police, who entered the house and found the bodies of Brandt's wife and niece. Terry had been stabbed 7 times in the chest while lying on a couch. Jones had been decapitated and disemboweled, with her heart and organs removed, and her head was placed next to her body. The weapons used in the crimes had been knives from Jones's kitchen. No one seemed to expect anything like this from Charlie Brandt. Mary Lou said of her brother-in-law, whom she'd known for 17 years, when they described what had happened to Michelle, it was even beyond description. Likewise, Lisa Emmons, one of Michelle's best friends, couldn't believe it. He was just very quiet and reserved, she said of Charlie. He would just sit back and observe. Michelle and I used to call him eccentric. Not only did everyone find Charlie Brandt nice and agreeable, they all felt like he and Terry had a perfect marriage. The inseparable pair did everything together, fishing and boating near his home, traveling, and so on. After he killed his wife and niece in 2004, authorities investigated Charlie's house on Big Pine Key. Inside, they found a medical poster displaying the female anatomy. There were also medical books and anatomy books, as well as a newspaper clipping that showed a human heart, all of which recalled some of the ways in which Charlie had mutilated Michelle's body. Searches of his internet history revealed websites focused on necrophilia and violence against women. They also found lots of Victoria's Secret catalogs, which proved especially troubling after they learned that Victoria's Secret was the nickname Charlie had given to Michelle. He had developed a bizarre obsession with his own niece. Police determined that Brandt's murder of Jones showed past experience, and because he traveled often due to his job, police checked cold cases in Florida that matched his apparent MO. They also launched requests for similar inquiries in the U.S. and abroad. The investigation uncovered evidence linking Brandt to the 1989 murder of a woman near his home. 38-year-old Sherry Parisho's partially closed body was found on July 16, 1989, floating in the water near the North Pine Channel Bridge at Big Pine Key, where she lived on the dinghy. Her throat was slashed and her head had been nearly severed. Like Jones, her body was mutilated and her heart was removed. Parisho was found less than 1,000 feet from where Brandt lived, and Brandt matched a composite sketch of a man seen crossing U.S. Route 1 near where Parisho was discovered on the night she was murdered. Terry had further confided in her brother-in-law that she suspected Brandt in the Parisho killing, and that he had come home with blood on his shirt that night, which he claimed was from him filleting fish. Okay. Based on this evidence, Monroe County investigators determined that Brandt killed Parisho and officially closed the case on May 6, 2006. Ultimately, the search provided evidence to reinvestigate 26 unsolved murders in Florida dating back to 1973 for potential evidence of Brandt's involvement. Aside from the 1989 Sherry Parisho murder, there was not enough evidence to link him to other crimes. However, there are 3 other cases where Charles is a suspect. Carol Sullivan, age 12, was abducted from a school bus stop in Volusia County on September 20th, 1978. Her skull was found in a bucket, leading authorities to believe she was murdered and decapitated. Brandt was 21 years old and lived in Volusia County at the time, but could not be tied to the crime in any other way. Lisa Saunders, age 20, was beaten, stabbed, and dragged from her car in Big Pine Key in December 1988. Her heart was missing when she was found, but it was unclear if it was from an attacker or eaten by vultures. In 1995, the body of 38-year-old Darlene Toller, a sex worker from Miami, was found, missing her heart and head, wrapped in plastic and blankets, and dumped in a grassy area near a highway. Brandt used the same highway regularly, and he kept a mileage record of his travels, which shows an entry of 100 miles on the day of her murder, roughly the driving distance between Big Pine Key and the area of Miami where Toller's body was found. I don't know, just studying for this case, this whole case was just weird because, like, what at 13 makes you want to kill your parents? Was he experiencing abuse in the house? Was he looking at materials that were unfit for someone that young to be looking at? Like, it's always, like, what drives somebody who's 13 years old to want to kill their whole family? Like, what type of mind state are you going through? That's the thing I like to know. Like, what is going through your mind when you're doing that? Like, Someone who's 13 years old, someone who hasn't experienced life yet, someone who doesn't really know much about life, but they know about wanting to kill people. That's concerning. Very concerning. But if you enjoyed this case, leave a like on the video. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel as well. Also, don't forget to turn on my post notifications on this channel. And thanks to everyone who supports this true crime channel. I appreciate all the supporters. I really do. I appreciate everyone. But thank you. Please be safe. Have a great day, and I'm out. Peace.